So thanks for joining. This is the third session of Career Insights, or Player Journey as I like to call it. The first one we had, just as a bit of a recap, we had Tim Visser, Property Development. The second week we had Entrepreneurship with Ollie Cohn and Setting Up Your Own Business with the Jolly Hog. And this week, obviously, the fitness industry and personal training. So I'm delighted to be joined by Mel Deane and Ben Gotting, and it's great to see them both absolutely smashing it in life after rugby. I played with Melly at Connacht. He probably doesn't remember because he didn't really, well, he did, he just used to bully me. And I played with Gotts at Wasps. So yeah, as I said, great to see them smashing it in life after rugby. Gotts, former Wasps, Worcester, retired in 2011 at the age of 30. Since the Foundry, PT and group fitness. And he also wanted me to mention that he's won a number of premiership medals and trophies.
Of course you said that, Ben. I knew him. And
Mel Deane, Connacht, Quins, over 100 games for Quins, Sale, Richmond, Island A, retired in 2009 at 34. Since Mel Deane Fitness, personal training and group fitness. Melly gave me a massive long list of celebrities he's training, but I won't read that out. So I'll leave that.
What a dick.
Guys, just the reason for these webinars, I suppose the idea is just to give players an insight in different sectors and industries, help them prepare and hopefully give them a bit of inspiration to be proactive and come up with a plan for life after rugby, something that I didn't do personally. But in it, we'll be covering how the two boys have found transition, their journey so far, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad and the ugly, what they did whilst they're playing to upskill, gain experience, advice, a Q&A lasting no more than 40 minutes. And I suppose from the first two sessions we've had with Tim and Ollie Cohn, I suppose the three key takeaways for me, for the lads, was networking while you're playing, building a network, something you can leverage when you finish playing. Experience is important as qualifications. And thirdly, just to try and have a plan, whatever it may be, try and have a plan for exiting the game. So lads, listen, that's enough from me. We want to hear from you. How are you both doing? How's lockdown been?
Benny, fire away.
Yeah, all good, mate. It's been, obviously lockdown's been rough for us as a relatively new company. We're like 4 years in now. The lockdown, I mean, we were getting to a position where we were starting to be profitable, and then lockdown has meant that we've now gone from, turning over a decent sum of money each year or each month even to being on our knees a bit in a way. We've had to transition our whole business onto an online model, which we've done. We've adapted and we've moved on. But we're just very much looking forward to now getting back out of lockdown, hobviously middle of sort of July, if you listen to the press.
Yeah, much the same as Benny, really. Obviously the RS fell out of it with lockdown. And I was thinking, it's going to have to go online. But then a lot of clients didn't have weights necessarily. Some of them had a few pounds. If they have a few pounds, they can have their own little gyms or whatever. But if you're doing a good bit of Olympic lifting, and that's what I'd like to do with clients, it's tough. And I was basically going around delivering bands to some people, some kettlebells, some little bits and pieces to keep them ticking over my regulars. I've had clients for 10 years and stuff plus since I've retired, and just to keep them ticking over, let me tick over. But then you just adapt, don't you? You get used to it, and then it's just on the online model, and now it's starting to open back up, and some individuals in the park, and like I said, traveled to Rio this morning, out in Orpington in Kent. So you're just getting back. I'd like the gym to be open though, because face to face is so much better, isn't it? It's so much better.
Mel, did you say you were in Brazil today?
Sorry, no, I'm down for Rio in Orpington in Kent.
Rio Ferdinand. Rio Ferdinand, you mean? All right. Melly, I don't know exactly what your journey was like from when you retired to kind of the first year after rugby. Ben, I've spoken to you before. I know you went into recruitment and you had a tough year or two in recruitment. I've said before, I went into sales, was completely out of my depth, didn't enjoy it, found the first year retirement, now retired 3 years, very tough. Can you both just tell us briefly, kind of your journey or story from when you actually retired that first year? Was it Melly, was it seamless for you going straight into the personal training, or did you find it difficult?
Well, luckily, I kept a good relationship with Richmond Rugby. After I left there, I still spoke to some of the people that were looking after Richmond, and I knew that they were looking for an S&C, and I knew I wanted to get into that side of when I retired, into the fitness side of things. So luckily, I have to say that was a really lucky thing to go back into, still in a rugby environment, even though I was no longer a player. I was still getting to be around the lads and have a bit of crack with that kind of. So I think I was very, very lucky in that regard. But and because I played, I got an initial amount, a certain amount of respect because I played, and then the boys who weren't professional would say, "Oh, maybe we listen to him." And so that was good, and I was with the rugby lads. But then doing the one-to-one, Richmond sent out like mass emails to all the clients, or all their members. Would you like any PT? We have a new professional. There was a professional, yada yada. I got people from that, and then if you do a good job and you're enthusiastic, then that's infectious. And then so I've been okay since.
So just before we go to Ben, Melly, did you know you wanted to be a personal trainer and set up your own business when you were playing, or did it just? It sounds to me like that it just kind of happened.
Well, no, I did. I was going to be either. It was going to be a publican because I grew up in pubs.
Yeah.
My dad manages a pub in Borehamwood, and I know how to run pubs. So I did that. I became a licensee to see, will I do that? Will I get one in the Twickenham area? Because I've been with Quinn's. Yeah. Maybe would they use that? So that's how I was thinking along those lines. But then I love training. And when I played, I loved training hard and lifting heavy. And I like the physicality of it. And so that's why I said, well, maybe I'll go angle towards that. And when I was in Connacht with you, Macca, Truck, Matt Mostyn and myself were training lads in Galwegians. And
I remember, yeah.
We were doing that. I trained people since I was a very young person because I was always into the fitness. I trained for like a professional long before I was. But so yeah, I knew I wanted it was one or the other, and I went for the better health option.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Got how about yourself?
Yeah, so my journey in was a bit different to Melly. So I obviously first met Macca when we were at university together. We were at Brunel University. So when we were both at WASP 21s, and I got a degree in sports science. I finished that off, and then went from there sort of directly into playing for Wasps. And I think as a player, you live in a bubble, don't you? You live in a bubble that you're never going to get injured. That this is the life, and you crack on. And so I hadn't given any thought to what I want to do at all as a career after rugby. And I was one of those players. When I look back, I have quite a lot of regret that I wasted all those opportunities to do extras, and to stay behind and graft a bit longer. And I was straight home to play poker or to get on Gears of War or something like that, or Call of Duty. And then so I never really thought about life after rugby at all. And then when I left Wasps after 5 years, I went to Worcester, and then I got injured in pretty much my whole last year at Worcester of a 2-year deal. I was injured, and I had hoped they would keep me on, and I think probably with false hope, because the end of the year came round and Mike Ruddock said to me, "Look, mate, we're not going to renew your contract." And then I was getting married that year, and what am I going to do? So a couple of mates of mine were doing recruitment in the city. I didn't want to be one of those guys who was married with no job, and I probably could have held out. I was talking to Saracens, I was talking to Glen Irish, and nothing was really materialising. So I was always more of a bit part player than a sort of an out-and-out star like you two boys were. But and so or maybe not you, Macca, but so I went into recruitment, and I had no idea. I didn't even know what recruitment. This is how thick I was. I didn't even know what recruitment was. I went into it. I just went and I thought, fuck it, my mates are earning 100, 150 grand a year. I need to be earning that sort of money. So I went and did that, and I've got to be honest, it was without doubt the most depressed I think I've ever been. I know people found that word depression around quite a lot now, and talk about blokes in their 40s, committing suicide and stuff. But I'd stand on the train platform at Richmond, and I'd wait for the train to come in. I'd be watching them, and I'd be thinking, "Oh Jesus, I can't keep doing this." And then so I was lucky. I got another year back in rugby at London Welsh, and during that time, I met a chap called Chris Walton. I think Melly, you know Chris Walton as well, and he was the S&C coach at London Welsh, and we were in the championship at the time. And I've got to be honest, the injury that I'd been out with for a year actually put paid to my career, and I wasn't as good as I had been. I was never that good, but I wasn't as good as I had been when I came back. And so it gave me that year really to focus on the fact that I wasn't playing much, and that I should then be focusing my attentions on something else. Now, I think as a player, all of us love the crack of being around the boys, don't we? And I think, Mel, you were quite lucky to go back into Richmond and have that same crack there with the, you know, being the S&C. I think that's the dream when you think about working in this industry. You think, oh yeah, I'm going to go with the boys again and go, you know, be at the club all day. And I think and Mel, you can confirm this. I think the reality as an S&C coach within a rugby setup, you need to be the top job if you want to earn any money out of it. And if you think about it, there's 12 Premiership clubs that probably pay half decent money in the top job. And below that, you're probably earning under 40 grand, under 50 grand a year, I would say. And it's a 7-day-a-week job, because on your days off, the boys who haven't played still want to train and whatnot. And people have always got your phone number, want to get hold of you. So I did the S&C at Rosalind Park Rugby Club whilst playing there towards the end of my career. And I realised that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I got my PT qualification. I went and got a job in a commercial gym, working for a gym called Gym Box in London. And it's pretty cool gym. If you haven't checked it out, you should check it out. They've got a really cool vibe. It's all freelance PT, so you pay a rent to be there. You pay get your head around that first. You got to make 1,200 quid before you make a penny. But what you get is like this constant stream of people coming through the door who is potential business. And so I did that for a while, and then made quite a success of that. I was earning some really good money there. Then an opportunities came up to open a gym, and I've been running this modified strongman boot camp outside, all the stuff that we do when we're playing rugby, you know, pushing sleds, dragging sleds, lifting logs, atlas stones, all that kind of crap, sandbags. And I just put a brand around it, which took off. And like Mel does his ladies that lift, mine was for sort of for females to like empower them to realise they can do things that maybe they in quote unquote shouldn't be doing. And yeah, that took off. And then 4 years later, I'm, you know, running a gym, which is well, running 3 gyms now. There's 3 sites. It's going okay, touch wood.
Great stuff. Lads, so that, yeah, there's a lot of lads within the teams in the Premiership and Newcastle who've done the level 3 PT course. So like, just from you guys, what advice would you guys give to any players that are wanting to set up and get into the industry, or, you know, a personal trainer or setting up their own gym? What is there any advice you kind of give to them while they're still playing that they can be doing? Obviously, qualifications important, but would you say it's a case of getting that done, keep adding little qualifications, maybe a nutrition course on top of that? But is it a case of getting into the gyms and getting that experience?
Well, Benny, do you want to go there, or do you want to?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, they always say brains are important, but big biceps are important, aren't they? Like, you know, the thing is, when, you know, the qualification, the level 3 just gets you insurance, right? That's why you have to get it. The reality is, as players, you probably know more than you're going to learn on the course anyway, from being involved with the sport from a young age. You will have come across and done loads of the different training methodologies, so you won't learn much out of the course, I don't think, depending on which course you do, I guess. But what you'll do is you'll be able to get insurance, and then you can start training people. So it's a prerequisite. Once you've done that, definitely I would suggest that you spend a small fortune on bettering yourself. Now, that doesn't have to be just from courses. That could be from saying to Mel, can I come and intern with you? You know, and you pay to go and do an intern. Like, for those of you that know Phil Richards, who used to be at Leicester and Worcester and Swansea, I went and interned with him. That cost me $3,000 to do, but it was invaluable, and I learned loads of stuff. And I've since spent money going to spend. And Mel, we've been on different courses together as well. You know, been on bits and pieces. You know, it's so important that you're educated, but you've got to work out first of all what you want to do. You know, and I think the glamour lies with S&C within clubs, and that's great. Without doubt, unless you're the top job, the money lies with working for yourself, though. And you know, in order to do that, qualifications are important. But I think your ability to network and chat to people is way more important.
But I know everything is a very quick fix in this world at the moment, but I get people messaging me going, I see your clientele base and I want to have a client base like yours. How do I get famous clients? Oh my God. And this is what people message you. The same as, what's the one best exercise to lose body fat?
Bench press.
Oh, but there's the questions you get asked. I can't seem to be losing weight, and then my bog standard answer is stop eating and drinking That's it. I don't say any more. Bang. That'll do. Huh? It's not very informative, but I would have to say that people want. I've been training PT for obviously since I retired, so that's now 11 years. I didn't have Rio and all those gang at the start, and the people, any of the famous people that I trained, I didn't have them at the start, because you graft. Nobody sees that you get up at 5 like Benny in the morning. They don't see the graft of you drive on a motorbike in the piss and rain, going down to Rio, soaked to the balls, standing there frozen, having to train Rio, and then get back on the bike to get back to the club, to get in the sessions back at the club, which would be my bread and butter as well. You know, so people think it's not easy, but if you're determined and you're willing to make the sacrifices, you'll do it. You know what I mean? So
you know,
maybe that are playing.
Sorry, you know, the keys, like actually when you just saying them, it's interesting. The keys actually to a successful personal trainer are work ethic and charisma. And I think, you know, if you look at what you represent, you know, like you are prepared to get on a bike and go in the pissing rain to go and train people over in Orpington. You are prepared to get up early and do it. And you do have the gift of the gab, which means you can talk to pretty much, I'll put you in a room with anyone and you're pretty good. I think, you know, you can do courses to better yourself on that stuff. But that's a natural gift, I think, if you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
I can see why you two have both smashed it, because, you know, obviously you're both good crack, you got good communication, people skills, but, you know, that is like, obviously the qualifications and the experience, the more experience you get, the better you become. Well, that is a big part of it, isn't it? Having crack with the clients and being personable, being likable.
But then obviously the people that are listening are professionals in their game, and they have a wealth of knowledge that the normal folks would be like, wow, what do you do? And what did you do this? But you now every week you say, yeah, we did weights twice and 3 times a week, and we did our conditioning and we did our hands. But that becomes the norm to you, but it's not the norm to anybody else. And if you put across your enthusiasm to make them like the professionals, then that's only gonna translate into them saying to someone else, look, this was great. I did this, it was terrific. Why don't you come along? And that's why I think it snowballs if you have that enthusiasm, and that it's infectious, isn't it? Really, if you're like that.
I definitely think you need to having something like, especially if you like you started like I did in a commercial gym. You need to have a point of difference. You need to have something that separates you from the rest. And you know, so that ex-professional rugby player thing, you know, much like there's ex-professional footballers, crickets, gymnasts, all that kind of stuff. That will be like an instant, like sort of hook for someone. If they see that, they'll say, oh, you know, Mel Deane used to play, you know, for Quins or whatever, you know, and they want to get in there. Once you've got that instant introduction, you also need to have a product. And if your product's gash, you're not going to retain the business. You know, it's funny actually. You train a chap, Mel. You may not know this. You may know this. That I did say a block of like 6 to 10 sessions for. Whether it's Tom, the guy who wears the headband. I see him in your videos. And I took him on quite early on in my career as a PT. And I think I did like 10 sessions for him, and then it never really materialized. And so I've sort of since grown and developed and stuff. But I've seen you've been training for a couple of years. So like,
awkward. Oh my God, this is awkward.
But my point being, you've got to have a product. You know, it's one thing getting someone in, because I got him in the door because I'm an ex-rugby player. I didn't at the time have the product to retain his business. Now, I see smashing it and grafting for you, and that works for him. So you do have to have the gift of the gab, but you've also got to have a product behind it.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit Mel's better crack than you got, so maybe that's.
Yeah, he did. But what he didn't like was when I kept holding his hand when we were running around the pitch together.
Okay. Lads, you touched on it there, Melly. You said about getting up at 5 a.m, etc. You know, like just for the guys that are on it and the girls that are on it, just, you know, what is the day-to-day like of the job? Because, you know, it's not. I was going to ask you, what's the 9 to 5 like? It's not a 9 to 5 job. You might be starting at 4:30 in the morning, going till 9, 10 at night. You've got to be prepared to do that because people want to train after work, before work. Can you give us a bit of an insight into how that works and what that looks like?
Well, Benny just mentioned that earlier on. He was up savagely early today, weren't you?
Yeah, again, it depends. So like I live out in Hampshire, in Farnborough, and I work in central London because that's where the decent money is. So that's my choice to do that. I know like you live within the area, the catchment area you work in. So already your commutes are reduced unless you're going out to Orpington. But like, so you could carve a good niche out. Let's say, for example, like I know I can't remember the name of it now, but there's a great gym out in Worcester that are doing really good things and you know, selling buckets and memberships, you know, and it's a relatively local vicinity area. So like, you can craft a niche for yourself in your own space, but I choose to drive up into London and do it. So it takes me an hour and a bit to get there. I've got to beat the congestion charge unless you want to pay 90 quid a week extra on top of what you're currently paying now. And, and all those things. So it's my choice to do that. You could do it easier. You could do your whole business could be online, for example. Yes. So it would mean that you're no commute and that that your work-life balance is better. But what I would suggest is if you're going to a commercial gym to get started, be under no impressions you are going to need to do 16 to 20 hours a day of commute, work, grafting, walking the floor, getting rejected. It's like a night out, isn't it? Getting rejected 100 times, all that kind of stuff until you pick up one bit of business. And that one bit of business might, like when I trained Tom, that chap that you now train, that was worth 500-600 quid to me at the time. And then that went. Whereas that's been worth thousands of pounds worth to you over time, So it's
yes,
it is hard though, and you can't sugarcoat it. Everyone thinks, what, you get paid £70 an hour, £100 an hour? That's fucking brilliant. I only have to do like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours, and I'm earning X. And it's like, yeah, but they don't come. They're few and far between. And then there's the lean months, because personal training is seasonal as well. So you have seasonal dips when people don't want to spend any money on personal training, and then you're scratching around for a few quid.
Yes, and I do like to think of myself as a luxury item.
There could be some sort of levy on you because you're such a luxury.
I'm such a luxury item, but you'll be first to go. Someone's like, now, let's say after the pandemic, everybody has a few pound less. Bang, you'd be the first thing to go. PT, jog on, no chance. You're not using your butt. If I was to say anything to a PT starting, because obviously at the start when you have to say yes to everyone. Can I do a session? Yes. You don't say no to anything. Can you drive to me 20 miles away and still pay you the same? Yeah, still pay the same because I need to work. I need to go, and you suck it up and you just graft. But for me, I think there's something that's left. When people laugh about it because I kind of ignore it sometimes. If I ask a client at the start of a session, how are you today? And a genuine question, how are you today? And what comes back is whether it be a positive response, a middling response, or a negative response. Whether you can melt them, you can just give them a look, I'm going to put a buff session on, or you're going to pull the session all together and just you lie on the carpet there and just like stroke yourself or something. Sorry, that's a different. Sorry, are we on the right one?
That's why you're next to the item, Mel. Flipping stroking your clients. Now I know what.
That's the luxury, but I honestly think that is so freaking left to one side. If you have a relationship with that person, you will know whether you can drill them that day and get the best out of them, whether you have to pull the session, it'd be a very fancy one, and vice versa. Because that when people would tick boxes of, I've got, how do you feel today on a rate of, are you above average, are you average, below average? And then that would always correspond with people's power output. So it's just a little gauge for me, that response. How are you doing today? And whether they're up, down, the face, you read faces, but I'd say that would be that's the minutia as a PT.
The fact that you even ask that actually demonstrates why you end up becoming successful, because you clearly actually give people you're training. I've again, in commercial gyms, I've stood there next to these guys who because let's be honest, you can get qualified as a PT in 6 weeks, right? And so you get often, I find in this industry, you get those that are really sort of well educated and do it because they love creating a difference and they geek out on the subject. And you get those, and then there's sort of a grey area, and then you get those on the other end who are looking to make a quick buck. And those that are looking to make a quick buck are usually dogs that don't last very long and fail. And it's because they come in and I've seen so many, because Gymbox went through a period of hiring some absolute dross, and you'd see guys who have got zero social skills, who have got arguably zero qualifications other than the PT qualification they've got. They've got no ability to hold a conversation with someone.
They've got guns.
Yeah, correct. They look good as well, and maybe that's their initial hook, but they've got no product to then back that up. And they fail as a result of it, because they don't care. They don't actually ask people how they feel, and they don't genuinely listen to the response as well.
Yes. Although, to be fair, some people moan at me and say, well, and you asked me how I was today. And I said I wasn't 100%, and now I'm dying. So it's like,
Eh?
Lads, you've kind of touched on it in some areas there, but the challenges of getting into it, I suppose, you talked about, I suppose when you start out, you've got no client base. So you've got to build that client base up. You've got to get traction. You've got to get the trust of the clients. You're probably not bringing in much money to start, but are there any other challenges to you just got to be prepared to work as hard as you can. Any other challenges you can think of?
Well, I at the time, when I retired, I had 2 daughters. I still have 2 daughters that I need to feed. That need money, and I would do whatever it took to put the money on the table. So I knew once I was playing when I was a professional, that's because I worked in pubs before and worked on the building sites. It was like, if I only play this as a professional for how many years, I know when I retire, I'm going to have to work hard. When I retire from rugby, I know I'm going to have to graft because I've had a whale of a time as a full-timer. I just wish I'd have added another couple of strings to my bow when I was playing, because I had so much time. And you don't realize you have so much time, but you have so much time. So,
that's kind of what I referenced to earlier as well. Like, you live in this bubble where this is again what probably made me feel depressed as well at the time, because like you live in this bubble and you are, let's say me, right? So you're Ben, the guy who plays rugby. The people, your family ring you up, your mates who don't play rugby ring you up and find out what the crack was on the weekend. Did you play? Did you start? Did you get on? Can you get tickets for next week? Then that's all of a sudden stops when you retire, and people don't call you up for that sort of stuff, and then you feel like you lose your identity. But maybe if you'd spent your time wiser when you were as a player, actually, like you said, going and interning with different people, going and spending your 1 day off a week, which you think is desperately important that you sit and recover for, which is actually a load of horse shit. Go and spend some time reading some books, and the internet is such a great resource now for actually learning. You don't even have to leave your flipping house. You can sit on the couch and learn. So it's a lot easier now than it was. I just wish I'd had sort of that big brother figure, which I guess is what the RPA are now doing, to sit there with that big unit, that big hairy unit Macca, to put their arm around you and say, lads, get your fucking head screwed on, because this will be over tomorrow, I guarantee you. And if you haven't got something lined up, if you haven't been putting some money away, if you haven't been looking for your interests outside of rugby, then you're mad.
Well,
I think sorry, go on, man.
Sorry, man. Yeah, but I would 100% agree what Benny just said there. That is, if you think it's going to go on forever, it's not going to go on forever. You're going to be playing, you're bulletproof. Yeah, no, it finishes, and it finishes fast, because the time rallies by, and then all of a sudden you think, I'm retired 3 years. What's going on? But yeah, it's such a valid point there, Benny. I agree 100%.
Yeah, and like Benny, I can relate to that as well, because I said to you, I didn't really have a plan when I was playing. I got to 35. I just kind of, in the back of my head, thought it would keep going and keep going. So I went into a sales job. I'd never done any sales experience whilst I was playing. Went into a sales job in telecommunications, and I was so far out of my depth. Like you, really struggled that first year. And I look back now and I just think, well, why didn't I try it when I was playing? At least you could, it's important to find out what you don't want to do as much as what you do want to do. Why didn't I try sales when I was still playing, even if it was just for 2, 3, 4 weeks? And then, so for guys, or anyone who's looking to get into personal training, do the qualification, but go in, get the experience, try it, see if you like it. You might not like it, but that's a positive, because you can move on to the next thing. Yeah,
no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think you keep telling yourself how important your recovery is, and that you've worked really hard at training, and it's absolutely, body is so able of achieving much more. You look at people who can climb Everest and all that sort of, or run ultra marathons, all that kind of stuff. Your body is very, very capable of working on very little fuel for a decent amount of time and producing half decent output. Obviously, there's an optimal state, and as professionals, you want to be in an optimal state, but don't kid yourself into the fact that you need rest to recover. You need to fucking put something in place so that do you know what? It's funny, right? When this COVID thing kicked off, I'm supposed to keep spinning these bits, right? When this COVID thing kicked off, I got down on myself again. I'm not normally a depressive guy, as most of you know, but I was thinking, I'm gonna have to qualify in another career again now. I've had 2 careers already. I'm not even past 40 years old, And then I was thinking, hang on a minute, I haven't made life-changing money yet, and I'm probably not going to have a state pension when I get older as well, because that thing will be gone as well. So I could be working until I'm 80 years old here. It could well be that I have another whole career as well. So you've got to think the long game, live fast, die young, and all that is great. But, think the long game, especially like Mel and like myself and Mac. And now, if you've got kids, this isn't just about you and about how tired you feel after a day at training where let's be honest, you've worked for an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours and you've had a crack with your mates for the rest of it. You've got to go home and put some food on the table long term.
Yeah. Lads, just a couple more questions from me, then we'll see if anyone's got any other questions. So what do you both bench? I know when you were playing, I know Melly, when you were playing, you benched about 185 and got to you about 90 kgs. What are you benching now?
It's not any better, mate. I'll tell you that. Progressive overload. What's that?
All right, what do you bench, lads?
Loads.
Oh, seriously, okay. Well, I'll be 125 probably about now, but I used to be 155. But I wouldn't need to lift that timber. I wouldn't.
You'd be about 75 kgs, would you?
Yeah, they're thereabouts, mate. Yeah.
Lads, two more questions for me. Do you employ anyone else, or is it just your one-man band?
Benny has people there. It's just me.
So we've now got 22 employees across the business, including myself and Dave, my business partner, as well. Generally, for us, we work on about 5 or 6 members of staff, including the front of houses, per site that we own, and then the directors as well. So as and when we take on more sites, obviously we will take on more people. In fact, it's terrible. I can't remember the chap's name, but is it Flood? Might be Flood, something Flood. But anyway, I was talking to him about, he's one of the RPA guys, I think, and we're talking about getting a link with the RPA and getting guys to come and intern with us. It'd probably work better for the London-based players, but we're always very happy to have people, to come and intern and learn, whilst they're on the job, as it were.
Yeah.
And just a one-man band. Yeah.
One-man band. Okay.
Yeah. I think in time I'm going to have to train up little Melians, I'm going to call them.
But if that's important, that's important, because otherwise you reach a ceiling on how many hours in the day that Mel Deane can actually coach, and then eventually next year when you reach your 60th birthday, mate, you may want to wind it down a bit,
Yes, this is true. This is so true.
Lads, just last one from me, and then we'll open it up. Just because that's been 35 minutes now. Just in terms of driving the business and the awareness, like we spoke about, gaining trust of your clients, and it's word of mouth kind of thing. But is it like how much of the social media play in kind of promoting your business, promoting yourselves, promoting your product and your service? That's obviously a pretty big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think sad to say, but social media is a really useful way to build your business, and actually probably an essential way, I would say, to build your business if you're looking to get it on a grand scale. You look at Joe Wicks, the body coach, and I remember, Mel, you may remember, he was standing outside Richmond Station handing out leaflets to his park boot camp. And then, in fact, Campbell Macca, so James Campbell's big mate, and Chesty came up with the whole lean in 15 thing. They used to draw abs on him, and then they'd show how to make this meal in 15 seconds on an Instagram video, and then it went boom, and look at how big he is now. Obviously, he had a good product to back it up and whatnot, but I think definitely social media is an integral way to build your business if you want to expand reach.
Well, you see, I am just speaking of Joe Wicks there. I'm a bit of a stickler for form and movement literacy, because it's brutal. All the fellas that I've trained, the adults that I train, they can't run. They're doing drills and their heels are striking the ground first, and I just as a matter of interest, how many people do you think win races when they're running on their heels? And they'll go, none, as if, don't be a and why are you running on your heels? Oh, I never. Am I? What? Yeah. And so so I thought to myself, just one night here, it's middle of lockdown. I was like, who would I get to get people to have the movement literacy and the whole country doing it well? And I thought, the nation's PE teacher, who's Joe Wicks. So I know him, but that didn't go down well. I said, it's very hard to sound like a see you next Tuesday, messaging him to say, how would we going to get like 2 minutes of every drill every session that you have? If you did 2 minutes of the 5 weeks that you have, of the 10 weeks they have of 5 a week, he'd have had hours of specific drills. Even there mightn't be so much fun, but he put them across in such a way that they could be fun. And I just want a bit more movement literacy to be more widespread, rather than adults not knowing how to run. You know what I mean? So
Macca carved a half decent career out of running on his heels as well, didn't you?
Lads, here, last one for me. Just, you mentioned there, like the level 3. I think you said it takes 6 weeks, and we spoke about, like, you get your level 3, gain as much experience as you can while you're playing, but you spoke about Addons. you know, what would those add-ons be? If a player's done his level 3, he's looking to get experience, you know, kind of physical face-to-face experience. But what add-ons would you say? Like a nutrition course? Would you say, you know, what? I suppose is it trying to find out what their niche is as well, and then adapting 100%.
To it. Yeah, right. Find out what your niche would want to be. You know, like for example, Melly loves all the Olympic lifting stuff. So then I would say, okay, then Melly, you probably should do the UKSCA Olympic lifting qualification. Or if you wanted to say that your out and out niche was going to be to get people leaner, then I would suggest that you probably want to have a nutrition course to back up the stuff that you're telling. Because, you know, as a personal trainer, really giving nutrition advice is fucking disastrous unless you've got some letters behind your name, you know, especially if someone ends up developing an eating disorder or something like that off the back of some advice you've given. You know?
Right, yeah.
So like, yeah, it depends what your niche is, you know, like when I first qualified, Charles Poliquin was massive. He's dead now, bless him. But, you know, and so I spent tens of thousands of pounds doing courses on here's the biosignature, the PICP. I mean, I spent fucking thousands of pounds on supplements after he told me to find that was useless. But yeah, I would
it's all a big learning curve.
Oh, mate. But, you know, what I would do is I would use the internet, use Instagram, find out what sort of stuff you like doing, the stuff that's interesting. There's this thing called kin stretch at the moment. There's another thing called flowability. There's loads of stuff out in the States, which they're a bit further ahead than we are, that's happening, and you can get instant access to that on Instagram. So I would have a look, find out what your niche is, and then definitely get yourself educated within that niche.
Yeah. Really? Same.
That's perfect. That answer was absolutely fun. You just go, well, what you enjoy, you'll always lean towards what you enjoy doing, and then you kind of find your thing.
Are there any niches that you kind of think of there now, which the players could maybe take advantage of? Perhaps, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at those things I've just quoted, so like flowability and kin stretch, and I think the thing is, right, and Mel has touched on it. You know, movement literacy is so important, right? But think, who are people with money, right? It's great being able to get someone jacked, right? That's awesome, but like. Yeah. You know, Barry, who's a builder, you know, who wants to get jacked so he looks good in Oceania, isn't your client base, right? It might be short term, but who is your client base is someone who's in their 50s and 60s who has bucketfuls of cash that, you know, appreciate the importance of you getting them to move and live better. So I would work on courses that possibly improve human movement and biomechanics, and then, you know, take it from there. That's where the smart money is. It might not be as interesting, you know, but it's certainly going to pay you well.
Perfect. Hey lads, just from me, just to say massive thanks. Really appreciate you coming on. It's great to see you both, and you know, some fantastic advice. As I said, it's been recorded, so it'll be edited and we can send it out to the players, because you know, there'll be a huge appetite to
edit. Don't edit this. This is perfect.
Well, we'll have to edit. Ben's said a few swear words, which is a bit naughty. So. But lads, really appreciate it. And is it all right for guys to connect with you? I'll just tell them to add you on LinkedIn if they've got any questions about the industry.
Yeah, either Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. Or I think you can find my phone number in a few phone boxes in London as well if you want to give me a shout.
Right, lads, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the sun. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers,
everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.